But you can't have that happen when you're planning bombs.
Agreed.
When you're planning war.
Oh, and then the common sense is starting to come in. Is there going to be some sober moment where I've been busy today and just now saw the Trump clip about his third term. Have there been any Republicans coming out and condemning it yet?
I'm not joking. President Donald Trump on the record saying he's not ruling out another run for the White House, telling NBC News, quote, there are methods by which he could do it. Now, the president is limited to 2 terms by the 22nd Amendment to the Constitution, but that has not stopped President Trump from flirting with this idea before.
It will be the greatest honor of my life to serve not once, but twice, or 3 times, or 4 times. Headlines from the fake news. Now it will be to serve twice.
Should I run again? You tell me. There's your controversy right there. There's your controversy.
I want to read to you part of the transcript from the telephone interview he had with NBC News' Kristen Welker. Welker says, "Sir, I'm hearing you don't sound like you're joking. I've heard you joke about this a number of times," to which the president responds, "No, I'm not joking. I'm not joking." The president goes on to say that there are methods on which he could seek a third term. Welker asked if it's possible that Vice President J.D. Vance gets elected and then passes the baton. The president indicated that that was an option, but he said there are others too.
No, but I haven't heard anybody coming out condemning it. Remember, Republicans will defend everything. They've already laid the groundwork in order to defend it, though. And the groundwork is just going to be, you're only allowed to serve 2 terms as president. Trump is not an exception to that. But because the deep state destroyed his first term, and because his election was stolen in the second term, he's really only served 1. So therefore, he should probably be allowed to run 1 more time, and that'll be his second actual term.
Coming to him after the 2020 election in 21 and telling him that what he thought was the circumstance wasn't, which is how I got into all this. He said, well, can you fix it? But he's such a resilient person, and he's seen so much. It's very hard to surprise him.
This is not your first test. Do you remember the toughest thing you've ever had to tell him?
What?
2020 election. Coming to him after.
Did we just use resilient as a replacement for the word stubborn? Did we just do that? Did I miss that redefining there?
The 2020 election in 21 and telling him that what he thought was the circumstance wasn't, which is how I got into all this. He said, well, can you fix it? But he's such a resilient person, and he's seen so much. It's very hard to surprise him.
This is not your first test.
Okay.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
1 hour ago.
It's just a weird time for thinking and for discourse and for deciding what team you're on. It's like everyone's scared and scrambling, do we go red or blue? And it's just the whole country's in this weird state of disarray.
And it's very tribal. And you see it now as well, now that the right is in political power, a lot of the people who kind of made their bones challenging the excesses of the left, they're afraid to say anything about the right as well.
Okay. This Constantine guy, okay, I feel like he might actually be a contrarian, okay? He has been dangerously based on his Twitter for the past 2 months, okay? I don't know if he actually is whoever's in power, I'm just going to go against that person or whatever, or because he's not a grift, because I don't think there's much money to be made by sucking up to the left right now. But damn, his shit, he's standing hard on that, on everything related to Ukraine and everything. I've seen that recently on his Twitter. It's crazy, but I don't know.
Well, even though there's things to say, I don't know if you followed the Signal group thing.
Yeah, I did. I don't know enough about it, but it does seem like there's people that suspected it was a setup. That guy was added to the chat on purpose.
Well, I think
is that true?
I don't think so. I think the guy who added him has basically said it was our mistake. And
so it was just a mistake.
I don't think the investigation has been done to say definitively,
It
but
will never
I think
be.
the White
It will
House
never
said
be.
we're
It will
looking
never
into
be.
this.
It will never
but
be.
Tulsi, I think, said it was a mistake. I think Mike Waltz said it was a mistake.
Such a crazy mistake.
Yeah.
That's such a checks and balances mistake. Like double check.
Yes.
It's like, you know, when you go on the road, like,
Yeah.
do I have my toothbrush?
Yeah.
Do I have my underwear? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I even make a note on my phone now. I'm like, I'm too stupid. I always forget something. I was like, my this.
You know, it's kind of like adding your ex-girlfriend to the boys' WhatsApp group.
Some of the memes have been incredible.
That's exactly what it's like. Dude, that's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Jesus. Can you imagine you're on some like debauch with your boys and you've been going off on a night and then all of a sudden you see in the bottom like Sarah is typing ... and you're like, oh no. You're like, oh shit.
That's exactly.
That's the normie equivalent to a streamer when somebody's like, hey, you know I'm live, right? And you're like, oh shit, and your life flashback is like, wait, what the what have I been talking about? What did we just say? That's the
incredible.
That's exactly what it's like. Dude, that's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good. That's
Yeah.
exactly what it's like. That's such a perfect analogy. Like, you fucking idiot. They're all on the phone afterwards. What the bro? Like, you know, Pete Hegseth swears.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, what the bro?
Yeah. You know she's gonna talk.
Well, how about the fact that they said that they didn't share any information about weapons or like what was the exact quotes? What did they say? So what they were basically doing was explaining how some shit is going to go down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were
Was it in Yemen?
they were debating how to do the strikes, whether to do them. There was some debate.
I don't want to build this manually. Give me a nuclear power blueprint.
About that initially. And then initially this journalist, I think he's editor-in-chief of the Atlantic, I think. He
He's like the worst guy to get this information
well,
to.
absolutely,
He
right?
was probably jerking off the whole time, salivating, like, yes!
Yeah, if you
Rock
had to
hard.
pick somebody, that is not who you pick, right?
He must be so pumped.
You know, we had an investigative journalist on the show, and we haven't released the episode yet, but as part of our after the show questions, he mentioned something which is, he said, I'm going from memory here, so Francis, correct me, but basically that Signal had been installed on government devices under the previous administration. So it may be the case that that guy's number had been pre-installed during that time. And because of that, the mistake was then made to add him to the group. So
My guess is I don't know if Signal does this, but I think my iPhone does this on everything. I don't know if it was the same with my Android or not. But on your iPhone, every single like app you have, every single app that I fucking have, when I go to like add somebody or message somebody, it always pops up like, hey, here's every other person that in your phone book, and by the way, you don't know what your phone book is. It's actually a phone book across like 7 different apps that could possibly be on this app. And it's like, damn, bro, are people tracking my shit like this? What the like, I don't need this shit in my life right now. How do you even know that I have the number for this other person on like Telegram? What the I bet it's something like that.
You don't know exactly what happened, but at the same time, what I'm saying is like the White House admitted it, and then they started having a go at the journalist. Like, that is not his fault that you added him to the group, right? Do you know what I mean?
Not at all. What's he supposed to do? Tell you, hey guys, I've done that before. Hey guys, I think you sent this text to the wrong dude.
Yeah. A journalist is never going to do that, and that's not his job to do that either.
No.
True.
Yeah.
Like listen to how many like reasonable good takes. It's not his job. That's absolutely true. It's not his job to do your job for you. He doesn't have to worry about that. That's your up, dude. True.
One of those things that just happens accidentally.
Yeah.
But you can't have that happen when you're planning bombs.
Agreed.
When you're planning war.
Agreed.
Like, first of all, it's so crazy that the government doesn't have its own.
They do.
Completely.
They do. They
safe
do.
app.
They do.
Thank you.
What is it?
I think it's called a skiff or something like that. It's a special place where you go.
Okay, I can't tell if I like him or if it makes me hate these people even more. Oh, dude, especially this time with Tim Pool when I saw his old Reddit posts. Like, so he's not an idiot. Okay, he's not an idiot. He does understand some things, or he has the ability to read or do something. Okay, where was this person for so long?
Oh no, but that's a room. I mean an app.
Oh, you mean an app? All right.
Who
Why
cares?
do they
have
not
something.
have some encrypted super government app? You telling me that you couldn't get like a license from Signal to use the code? The government throws them. They like all these billions that are just they're finding billions all over. There's like billions.
They're really
like how many fucking billions
really
has Elon
not.
cut just from waste?
Like
just
none.
waste.
He says.
None.
Yeah.
None.
It's crazy.
It's not that
and
crazy.
people aren't celebrating it. It's weird.
Well, put it this way, Joe. Until relatively recently, if not still, we use faxes in UK government.
Wow, that's crazy.
A lot of
There's a really good reason for that, but I don't know the reason. I'm just kidding. I have no idea if there's a good reason for that or not.
I think we got you one better. I think when people retire from what is it where they have to retire, where they have to write it down on paper and then it's stored in a vault?
in a mine. It's stored in a mine.
Yeah.
Social Security?
Oh, it's on paper.
No, hold on. The mine shit is not Social Security. I thought that had to do with people retiring from government, that they store some shit somewhere on paper. But
It's in a mine.
I love that press conference as well because it's like Brett Baer from Fox interviewing Elon and like 7 other ASPI guys, and they're all just rattling off numbers. It's 10,000 filing cabinets, 400.
faxing is P2P, so it's much more secure than cloud-based shit. P2P, I've never had to pay to play. You don't have to pay per fax or whatever, unless you're on a... I'm just kidding. The only thing I don't understand, and it's just because I don't understand the architecture behind the scenes, I don't understand how you can make it so that there's not duplicate phone numbers. Or rather, like, why can't 2 SIMs exist with the same phone number? Is that, like, does the tower detect that somehow? Like, I have no idea how that works. Although I guess phone numbers might not necessarily be SIM stuff, but...
1,000 paper documents.
People are saying you can. You're not supposed to be able to. If you are, it's through a hack. Because I've always asked, like, can I just have 2 SIMs? Dude, God, that would be so convenient. If I could share the same SIM between an Android and an iPhone, I would come constantly.
But when you look at it, it basically hasn't changed since the 1950s.
Yeah. I'm distracted by Brett Baer's hair. It's so beautiful. If I had that kind of hair, I would be so happy. I'm so happy with myself. You can't see any scalp anywhere. It's just all hair. It's beautiful. It's like if you wanted to like put a wig on a bald guy, like you would make it like that. Like, bro, I'm gonna make you hot.
Yeah, Gavin Newsom has got incredible hair. Terrible policies, but amazing hair.
The government stores key retirement paperwork in a converted mine.
But you know what's
crazy? The limestone mine is real, and in the Department of Government Efficiency's crosshairs. That is so insane. So now someone has to go in there and take all that stuff that's on paper in the mine and put it in a computer.
They're saying they're going to do it in 2 months.
Things get done.
Yeah.
They do things get done, but this is kind of the greatest pushback against like high-level conspiracy theories. You know when people go, bro, they control everything.
Oh, and then the common sense is starting to come in. Is there going to be some sober moment where a whole bunch of these like conspiracy theorist guys are like, they're like, wait a second, was this shit just fucking retarded the whole time? Because they're joking about it, but like, there's a good degree of truth to this, right? Like, okay, hold on. The guys that are secretly controlling telecommunications, internet infrastructure, everything all across the world, you're telling me that when they retire, they have to go down, they've got to send a dude down the mine shaft? You're telling me that half of our government's pension plans got toast when they sent a 22-year-old down there and he lit a fucking cigarette and it exploded because of a gas? Those guys are controlling everything?
You're like, dude, they have a mine where they store stuff. Come on.
Yeah.
You know what
ridiculous. I mean? Right. It's like the perfect... Everybody thinks that everything is a giant plot, and some of it is just sheer incompetence and just years and years and years of monotony. You know, or just like the same stupid life over and over again, no oversight, rampant corruption everywhere. All the lobbyists are rich as
And then there's also, again, I'm not going to sit here and say government is perfect, okay? But I really wish sometimes they would bring in people from private sector jobs just to like talk about their jobs, because I feel like they feed into this delusional fantasy sometimes of like the hyper efficient private environment where, oh yeah, I work for a corporation and all of our stuff is fully up to date and I love all my middle managers and my boss is so cool and we never over order shit or do anything wasteful in the office, and you know, nobody shits for 45 minutes on company time and everybody's on their computer working constantly without mouse jigglers and everybody is 100% tuned in. Like, every large organization has this problem. Unless you're working in some fucking autismo startup with like 6 people, all right, where like 3 people are doing 95% of the work or whatever, and like everybody else is like on the ball because they all have huge, like every job is like this. Every large company is like this. Everybody has these problems. This is not a unique government thing.
I mean, look at this file line. Look at this. This is all the data.
Somebody made a post on my subreddit. I don't think I read it yesterday, but I get the vibe that the person said. Although I don't know if I can quantify it, but somebody in my subreddit was making the complaint that he had a whole bunch of like conservative coworkers and stuff who are now like silent. Like they used to have political debates and stuff all the time, but now nobody really wants to debate anything. And I think it's kind of funny, and I bet that that's kind of happening in a lot of places because I know that we like to think conservatives are actually evil. Most of them probably just aren't very like politically plugged in. But if you are plugged in at all, bro, the recent shit is like, it's just indefensible. It's insane how crazy the conservative, how crazy Trump has been recently. It's indefensible. Yeah. True. Somebody just linked this. 1 year from now, I blame Biden. He should have done a better job explaining how Trump's policies were going to screw people like me. That's why I'm still MAGA. I've noticed that all my conservative friends are so quiet when I talk about politics nowadays. Before Trump's inauguration, we would regularly have these contentious conversations about current events. But now I can't even get them to engage with any of it. Like, for example, I was trying to talk to my friends about this recent Houthi group chat cluster, which is obviously a massive deal when you have the VP and our heads of security showing such monumental incompetence, and yet I couldn't get a peep out of him. Mind you, this was someone who I would constantly argue with about Trump and current events. Am I too online brain to the point of being off-putting what's happening? I feel like I'm objectively presenting facts, not ideologically framing anything, but then they go radio silent, so I just stop. Any idea why? I will say for this, probably maybe because he watches my stream, and we do have a bit of ideological capture here, he's probably not fully honestly representing the story. So like I've even been a little bit wrong on this, in that I keep saying that it was probably a violation of like national security stuff because these are probably classified. However, if you actually go through the classified stuff, I've had people email me this, the only stuff that they talk about when it comes to like attacks and stuff are war plans. And these were just attack plans. And a lot of us, I think, have gotten that wrong. So, you know, it might just be our partisanship there that's inhibiting our ability to read honestly what's going on. Don't you think April 2nd will be a potentially big wake-up call for all the people who don't follow any politics if he actually does the tariffs? I can't imagine the market not tanking. We'll find out. We officially had negative GDP this quarter. Is it official yet? I don't know when like the fiscal quarters end, if it's actually like these first 3 months of the year or something. The fact that we went from whatever we had for the last quarter of Biden to if we actually end up getting a GDP contraction, it just for no reason, for literally no reason. Like Trump is breaking all the rules because it was supposed to be you just write off the goodness of the last admin and take credit for it. But now he's like managing to destroy the goodness. Like why? What the fuck? I don't know. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't think it's finalized yet. So let me use the restroom. Hold on one sec. When I talk to the true rightoids, they are explicitly clear. They simply want to break and burn everything out of sense of spite and revenge. They view Trump as too far left for them. Yeah, I know there are crazy people like that, but I'm thinking of like the people on the outer perimeter, like towards like the center, like not, which I think are actually most MAGA. I don't think most MAGA are like the hardcore people you see online. Ice brown shirts, black bag, Hispanic. Oh, ice brown shirts, black bag, Hispanic, U.S. born citizen off the street. Confiscate his IDs, but refuse to look at them. Then claim he is actually undocumented. And do not give him a chance to protest, contact a lawyer, etc. They did not have a warrant. Let's see. He was walking near the corner of Cermak Road and Harlem Avenue in Berwyn, Illinois, handing out his resume to local businesses. As he walked out of a Jiffy Lube, he was approached by ICE officers who grabbed him and handcuffed him and put him in a van without an opportunity to explain his citizenship. The officers drove Julio and others around for more than an hour before bringing him to an ICE processing center, where he remained still handcuffed for several more hours. All the while, Julio had a wallet containing identification that ICE had confiscated. The officers never showed Julio a warrant, and they did not ask him any questions to ascertain whether he was a non-citizen or a flight risk. After about 10 hours, ICE officers reviewed the contents of Julio's wallet, realized he was a U.S. citizen, and released him with no money and no paperwork. What do they mean, released him with no money and no paperwork? As in they took his money, or they didn't pay him for his time and no paperwork, like they took the paperwork he had, or they just didn't show him like a warrant or anything? unless, I don't know if it's different for federal officers. I can't imagine that it would be, but this interaction is okay, like right up until like literally the very fucking beginning. Like ICE officers could walk up to you and ask you a question, but I don't know how they can touch you or handcuff you. At that point, they would need at least reasonable suspicion to detain somebody. I don't know what reasonable suspicion you have by the guy just being brown. And then this taking him to an ICE center and everything, this sounds like an arrest. I don't even know if we've gotten a reasonable suspicion yet, let alone probable cause for an arrest. And then after 10 hours, they release him. That's okay. That's kind of not good at all, but yeah, people are linking this shit about Trump seeking a third term. Don't care. Let's survive the second one first, then we can worry about any of that shit. The midterm should be what you're looking at right now. Police say that ICE tactics are eroding public trust in law enforcement. That's not surprising at all. When's the revolution against this? You guys taking it and doing nothing. I don't know what to tell you. The problem is that I get so angry. I hate it every time I see Dan post a stupid clip. It actually triggers the out of me. But I don't even know who to get mad at. Like, God, this just triggers the out of me.
Regardless of the hypothetical reality where Kamala Harris would not be as bad as Donald Trump, which we have no proof for.
This is such it's such an maybe Biden and Kamala would have brought us in any world. The thing is, I bet he'd even say yes because he's such a disgusting snake privileged. If you would ask him prior to the election, do you think there's a chance that Kamala would authorize the Alien Enemies Act to start deporting brown people with no due process? Like, it's not even remotely the same. I hope that there are two big things that come from this for the Democrats as they figure out their pathing, their footing. One is that conservatives have no values. Don't ever try to appeal to them on some values-based thing, like on their own values, right? You just have to try to win over like the working class voters, provide good services, message on that, but don't ever appeal to conservative values because they have none. Number one. And number two, these lefties have got to go. Get these guys the away from this party. They are cancerous, toxic, subhuman fuck. Like, it's actually disgusting. Oh my God. Oh, it'd be the same. It'd be the exact same on both sides. Kill me, bro. Holy fuck.
Has prioritized immigration enforcement, which has led some. The Trump administration has prioritized immigration enforcement, which has led some local police leaders to say it's making their jobs harder. That's because many people living in the U.S. without legal status are wary of the police and reluctant to report crime, even when they're the victims of it. NPR's criminal justice reporter Meg Anderson has this report.
In Santa Fe County, New Mexico last month, local police addressed a packed auditorium.
Buenas noches.
With the help of an interpreter, New Mexico State Police Chief Troy Weisler tried to reassure county residents.
When we respond to calls or investigate crimes, we do not care if someone is a citizen or not.
Santa Fe Police Chief Paul Joy didn't wear his uniform out of fear it would make people nervous.
Whatever happens around the country, whoever is president, you are our community. We are your officers.
Meetings like this are playing out nationwide. Police are holding town halls, releasing videos and statements, adding FAQ sections to their websites. They're trying to communicate the same message. They are not immigration officers. But that can be tricky. At the Santa Fe meeting, County Sheriff Adan Mendoza said his agency does sometimes work with federal authorities, but
to be transparent, the only time that we would ever cooperate with ICE should be
for like ongoing investigations into violent crimes or potentially handing over violent felons, which I think everybody would probably agree with.
Cooperate with ICE would be if somebody has committed a major felony.
Yeah.
That's not the case everywhere. Police agencies have different rules for how they work or don't with ICE.
But you got to figure too, this is the argument, one of the arguments, by the way, regardless of how you feel about them, this is one of the arguments for sanctuary cities, is you got to be able to enforce crime, whether they're legal or illegal or whatever you can't let crime run rampant. And when you have a system that is aggressively trying to vet people or aggressively searching for illegal immigrants, you're discouraging certain communities from reporting crime because now they're not sure if they're going to get deported if the cops show up or if something happens, you know? This is why I don't know if I want to make that generalization. Nah, I will, because it's the responsible thing to do. I have to counter message all the lefties. Like, if you or your friends are like, hi, if you're drunk or if you've done something you're not supposed to do it, but there's like some serious shit going down, you should call the cops. I'll say from my personal experience, and I can't generalize this to everybody, but from my personal experience, if cops show up and there's like some serious shit going down, if a cop like stumbles across some weed or whatever, he's not there to like bust your balls on it. Like, generally they're more happy that you called than you didn't. I don't know if that would be true necessarily, maybe in every single circumstance, but don't ever like let yourself get into some serious crazy shit, or let other people convince you. Like if you're a girl and you're at some dude's house and you know you're whatever's going on, and you feel like you need to call the cops, and the guy's like, "Don't, we're already, we're high on cocaine, and the cops will up or whatever." Like, don't ever be afraid of shit like that. That's retarded. You're living in like the weird lefty world where cops are just showing up to kill you or whatever. That's not always the case. That's like 50% of the. I'm just kidding, but yeah, but.
It's a delicate balance. Many police do want ICE to apprehend people committing violent crimes. They don't want to scare away law-abiding immigrants from calling the police.
You can't really trust them to enforce crime if they are falsely labeling everyone as some kind of terrorist or violent offender and blackbagging them off to El Salvador. Sure, but that's what you're talking about there. These are federal officers that work for ICE. It's not the same as your local police enforcement or your local law enforcement. These are different. They're different. A totally different agency, totally different mission. But
I'm calling the police. Chuck Wexler, head of the Police Executive Research Forum, says it's not always easy.
Dealing with their communities, it's dealing with federal law enforcement, and they really find themselves caught in the middle and trying to navigate that ground as best they can.
In Tennessee, the Greenville Police Department postponed a Hispanic community meeting this month after people on Facebook claimed it was actually an ICE roundup in December.
Cops hardly ever make things better in most situations. Cops, in the overwhelming amount of situations, will make things better. There are bad times where they don't, and those times will show up on YouTube if they don't, but generally speaking, you're better off having them there than not.
Skies. In Boston, when Police Commissioner Michael Cox pointed out last month that his agency doesn't have the authority to enforce immigration law, Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, said he'd bring hell to the city. Last week, ICE arrested more than 300 people in Massachusetts.
At Destiny, okay, Leon's Law, okay, you're a lawyer, okay. Because I'm reading your statement now, and I don't... You said, my homie passed out and shattered his hip hitting a tree with his car. When the cops showed up, they arrested him for having a weed pen. They probably should have arrested your friend because it sounds like they showed up to a scene with a accident happening where your friend sounds like he was driving under the influence and they found narcotics on him while he was passed out and crashed in his car after he hit a tree. So in that case, they probably should arrest him. Yes, what the fuck?
Many police chiefs have opted to risk the ire of the federal government to preserve trust with immigrant communities. That can be a tenuous bond in the best of times. And leaders NPR spoke to say they're worried immigrants are already reporting fewer crimes. Studies show immigration status can be a barrier to calling the police. Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara says that jeopardizes public safety.
If people are not willing to call us and tell us what's going on, tell us they've been victimized, cooperate as witnesses, all of that leads to a situation that makes the potential for everyone in this city to be victimized that much worse.
Republican Sheriff Chad Bianco in Riverside County, California, is in favor of Trump's immigration efforts. But he regularly speaks with farm owners in his county. He says many of them employ people.
The problem is that like everybody's in favor of a broad thing until it's applied to them in particular. Like if you ask somebody, like, do you think that people that have been convicted of a violent felony should be allowed to own firearms? They're like, absolutely not. Never. That should just never. That's bad. No, violent felons shouldn't have access to these things. Like, okay, fine. It's like, okay, well, we're taking all your guns. Like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Well, you might be 47 years old, but when you were 21, weren't you convicted of assaulting that guy outside of a bar when you got drunk? And it's like, okay, well, hold on, bro. Yeah, but like I pled guilty to it. It was a bar fight. It was dumb, but that was like 30 years ago, bro. Like as soon as it's them, all of a sudden we have to, well, hold on, wait. We need to like fairly analyze the situation. The broad brush ain't gonna work for me, homie, okay? Get the scalpel out, what the And it's always like this, whether you're talking about Brexit, we need to leave the EU. Okay, well, how? Oh, shit. How? What do you mean how, brother? 2 years debating that. Whether it's abortion is always wrong. Okay, well, that chick that you hooked up with last night, she's pregnant. And it's like, actually, Nietzsche and Hume have interesting things to say about the concept of life and the meaning and value of a It's like, okay, well, all right, Chief, yeah.
People who are undocumented.
The employees are telling the owners of things that are happening.
They're reporting robberies.
People like Asmongold want every single illegal immigrant to be deported, no matter if they have committed violent crimes or not, no matter if they have jobs and have lived in the U.S. for decades, simply because they crossed the border legally. Do you think the reason for why he thinks this way is simply because he cares that much about the law, or is there something else happening? It's if you don't see somebody, if you don't interact with somebody, it's very easy to dehumanize them, right? He probably just hasn't had a single interaction with anybody that he knows is an illegal immigrant, unfortunately.
Robberies, assaults, even rape.
So the owners are telling me, but they're telling me that they can't convince their workers to be a victim and to notify law enforcement because they're afraid they're going to be deported.
Harold Medina is the police chief in Albuquerque and also leads the Major Cities Chiefs Association. He says if law enforcement is only now trying to build trust, it's too little, too late.
I think it comes down to you should never try to create a relationship with a segment of the community the day after something has occurred. Every day we deposit in the bank of trust.
He says trust makes it easier to convince people that the police are here to help. Meg Anderson, NPR News.
These people have got to go. These people need to go. These people. If I notice someone being suddenly grabbed and being dragged away by unidentified people who are ICE officers in civilian clothing, do I have the right to try and stop them, even with the Second Amendment? Yeah, you have the right if they don't identify themselves. Kamala would not have turned ICE into a modern Gestapo that kidnaps students off the streets. There was never a point where ICE wasn't that. Liberals believe in nothing and remember even less. Guys, laws are important. The border is important. Laws should be enforced, and the border should be enforced. We should not have illegal immigrants in the United States, okay? That being said, the way that you, just like we also ideally shouldn't have abortions, right? Because people shouldn't be getting pregnant, right? So what do you do? What the best things to do are to be preventative, okay? How do you keep people from getting pregnant accidentally, right? Things like birth control and education having to do with contraception, right? Or with illegal immigrants, for the people that are here, you've got to figure out a way to get them registered. And then ideally you figure out a way to help people immigrate more or secure the border more. Both of these things are fine. But yeah, it can't be a lawless nation. Like,